This is the news on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio.
Hello, welcome to today's news at noon for Monday, December 14th, 2020. I am Kevin Smith. These are the top stories we are tracking. TNT's ignorance in gas trading led to massive exploitation and lost $17 billion between 2010 and 2017, expert reveals. But in the Bartica murders, woman had planned to report threat of arson today. And Granger fails on commitment to issue statement on AFC senior executive phone tapping allegations. Meanwhile, police probing Blessing Circle's alleged Ponzi scheme. And Bartica mayor says community must confront mental illness. Stay tuned to stay in.
Human Services and Social Security and UNICEF.
And now for the news in detail that comes to you with the compliments of Amalanda Milk. Lack of knowledge and perhaps a heavy dose of gullibility are two of the main reasons why Trinidad and Tobago ended up losing billions of dollars in oil and gas revenue over the last few decades. Trinidadian energy strategist Anthony Paul shared that his home country took for granted the importance of learning everything it should about the trading of gas and instead trusted oil companies to sell their gas resources in a transparent and honest manner. Paul shared that as a result of this, the oil companies were able to funnel $17 billion into the pockets of its shareholders. He said this is money that the oil companies should have paid in taxes between 2010 and 2017. Had Trinidad been a prudent manager, the expert was keen to note, this money could have been collected and used to clear a significant part of Trinidad's national debt, which stood at $22 billion during that time. In other news, Diana Kennedy had witnessed the tragedy of her 48-year-old sister Carolina Kennedy and her 5-year-old and 3-year-old daughters being consumed by a fire in their house on Saturday evening. The fire was set by Carolina's husband and father of the two children, Ken Ford Downer. Diana Kennedy had said only last week he had threatened to burn her and the children to death, and in fact, she had planned to lodge a report with police today. We were told that the suspect was previously convicted for abusing the deceased. And now let's tell you former President David Granger has flaked on his commitment to provide a statement addressing media reports that the coalition government had ordered in April of this year the surveillance of a senior minister from the AFC arm of the administration. Granger, according to the executive PNCR member Christopher Jones, planned to make a public statement yesterday morning. That was in response to a request for a direct comment. However, that timeline passed without a statement being issued by the coalition leader. Granger himself has not been directly or indirectly accessible to the media for several months now, with attempts to contact even through senior intermediaries like opposition leader Joseph Harmon proving unsuccessful. And moving on, the police has launched an investigation into the alleged blessing circles Ponzi schemes in which persons are asked to bring a varying amount of money for significant returns of up to 9 times the quote-unquote invested amount. The charge alleged that Dwayne Charles and Claire Joseph obtained the total sum of $107,500 under false pretense. Both defendants denied the charge, and the magistrate placed them on bail of $40,000 each on one of the fraud charges and self-bail for the remaining charges. The matter was then adjourned to January 12, 2021 for report and fixture. And now let's tell you, in light of the recent tragedy which saw a woman and her children being burnt to death and the rape of a 7-year-old girl, Mayor of Bartica, Gifford Marshall, said that the community must confront men with mental health illness. Marshall stated that in light of recent incidents, he believes that too many men from the community suffer from mental health issues. On December 4th, Bartica residents also had to face the news of the gruesome rape of a 7-year-old girl. The victim was reportedly abducted from her home by 2 teenage boys, raped and left unconscious in a muddy area. Information also suggested that these juveniles had troubled pasts and suffered from mental breakdown. It is 12:06. Coming up after the break, one arrested in Arakaka Police Outpost arson attempt. And Mr. Yan Mangal says don't expect the PPP to remedy suspicious award of Kaieteur and Kanji Block awards. Meanwhile, Minister Anthony urges caution during Christmas shopping and draws from Public Hospital Cooperation Board to address medication shortage. Do stay tuned.
A lot has happened since oil was discovered in 2015. The petroleum industry is an ever-changing web of oil, gas, politics, and money. It gets complicated sometimes, but we can bring you all the latest developments and include you in the discussions here on Kaieteur Radio. So tune in to 99.1 or 99.5 FM every Tuesday night at 20 hours for Petroleum 101 with me, your host, Kamal King. Kaieteur Radio, the radio with a difference.
Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. A 29-year-old man has been arrested in connection with the arson attempt on the Arakaka Police Outpost located at Arakaka Northwest District last Friday. The suspect is identified as Roscoe McIntyre of Central Arakaka Village. According to previous reporting on the incident, a subordinate officer who was on duty at the time reportedly told investigators that he and other ranks were performing duties in the inquiries office when they heard a loud explosion and instantly saw a huge blaze to the front door of the building. The suspect is currently in police custody while investigation is ongoing. Check. We do apologize for that break in our technical difficulties, as it all happens from time to time. Let's continue. The PPPC administration continues to portray an unmoved attitude to the calls from the local media corps and global transparency bodies for an international probe into the suspicious giveaway of the lucrative Kaieteur and Kanji oil blocks. In this regard, oil and gas consultant Dr. Yan Mangal is of the strong view that the PPPC will make no move to remedy the suspicious awards of the nation's prime assets. The PPP further showed how unmoved it is by those calls when it rehired former Natural Resource Minister Robert Prasad as Foreign Secretary, in spite of the concerns of the role he played in the awards. The awards of the Kaieteur and Kanji oil blocks breached every known international best practice and were riddled with red flags. Meanwhile, the Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, is urging businesses and shoppers to follow the necessary precautions during the Christmas shopping season in light of the novel coronavirus pandemic. The minister stated that persons have to take on some personal responsibilities and abide by the COVID-19 precautions that were implemented since March. Minister Anthony stressed that the businesses were where persons are going to shop would have to put measures in place so that persons shopping at their facilities can do so in a safe environment. The health minister stated that he knows around the holiday season people tend to crowd around the stores. Meanwhile, 3 months after commitment, Harman yet to host oil and gas press conference. Let's tell you, 3 months after his initial commitment to do so, opposition leader Joseph Harman has failed on hosting his party's oil and gas press conference to deliver information on the awards of the Kaieteur and Kanji oil blocks, among other pressing sector-related issues. On October 2nd, after being pressed on oil and gas issues, Harman gave his first promise to host a press conference specifically dedicated to answer questions related to the sector. For the entirety of the coalition's term in government, Harman played a key figure at the helm of the Ministry of Presidency. He was Minister of State, then Director General, and throughout that period, the Ministry of Natural Resources fell under the presidency, giving him oversight for the sector. And moving on, the newly appointed board of the Georgetown Public Hospital will be addressing the shortage of certain medications at the facility. The Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, made this disclosure. According to the minister, the government is working overtime to have the medication shortage fixed, and they are currently trying to source them. He further added that the hospital and its board will have to take immediate measures to have the medication shortage sorted. Notably, the government recently spent $3 billion to replenish the national drug supply, and that allocation catered to replacing expired drugs amounting to almost $1 billion and replacing those that were out of stock. It is now 12 hours 12, time for a COVID-19 update. A 79-year-old Region 4 woman was recorded as Guyana's 154th COVID-19 fatality yesterday. Additionally, 41 new COVID-19 cases were recorded, which was presented in the Ministry of Health's daily dashboard update. The newly recorded cases push the total number of confirmed cases to 5,920. 636 persons are in approved home isolation, 50 in institutional isolation, 35 in institutional quarantine, while 6 are in the COVID-19 ICU at the Lillian Dahl Infectious Disease Hospital. And coming from CNN, the U.S. is giving the first doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine as the nation nears 300,000 deaths. Health experts are warning it's likely the U.S. won't see any meaningful widespread impacts from the vaccinations until well into 2021. Germany announced a hard national lockdown, starting next week and continuing through the Christmas period. And that brings us to the end of today's news at noon. Remember, the news came to you with the compliments of Amalanda Milk. I am Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening. Full details of these stories, pick up a copy of the Kaieteur News. And don't forget, you can catch us on the MyTuner app as well as the Radio Garden app. You can also keep up to date by liking our Facebook page at Kaieteur Radio. And